What about the non-drafting of wide receivers by the Green Bay Packers? What do you think what about their strategy in their draft, Greg?
My sense is, and again, I'm just giving you my feeling about Matt LaFleur, knowing his background, that he comes kind of from a Kyle Shanahan background, spent a lot of time with Kyle. I think the feeling is that he wants to sort of transform that offense into an offense that starts with the run game and works off of that, which it's interesting that we live in a time where people don't talk about the run game at all, and in fact view the drafting of running backs as if you've committed some kind of sin. But I think he wants to take that approach, run the football, work off that, have a rhythmic passing game, and not that receivers aren't important, but that you can run that kind of offense in his mind without having 3 or 4 really good receivers. They obviously have one really good one in Devontae Adams, and they have a tight end who I think they really like in Jace Sternberger, who was a rookie a year ago. But I think that's the approach that Matt LaFleur wants to take.
I guess, and then let me take the same, because the same approach we're talking about with Belichick, about why in the world would they just go into the season with Brian Hoyer and with Jarrett Stidham? And I've been sitting here saying, don't sleep on Stidham in terms of what he can do, in terms of how Belichick's evaluating him, in terms of how he's looked in practice. Obviously, we all know the last time we assumed somebody going into year 2 because of a quarterback situation and what that guy turned into. I'm not saying Stidham's going to have a Brady-like career, but the whole point, and I do want to get to that very subject later on, but what about the receivers the Packers currently have? Are we missing anything on that front where they could sit here and say that there's a second year or a third year jump that they're planning on having from these guys?
I'm sure that they think so. And that's why they did not draft receivers. The way the draft works, and it's funny, and obviously we live in a time where there's no other sports right now. So the draft, which is big to begin with, took even more significance because there's nothing else going on. And with social media and everybody now being a draft expert, is the assumption is that when you draft a player, for the most part, that you're filling a need. And it doesn't always work that way. Not all players make it, even first-round picks. We know that. So maybe they feel good about their receivers. I'm not defending Matt LaFleur. I'm just trying to understand what his mindset is. And we're not going to know that until we play football. If you last year said about the San Francisco 49ers that they would get to the Super Bowl and Raheem Mostert would be their leading rusher for the season, people would probably have laughed, don't you think?
I'm laughing right now at the sheer notion of putting me in that position. You're not wrong. I mean, look.
No, again, I'm not smarter than anybody else, Rich. That's not the point. But I tend to try to think reasonably about this and not just have reactions where, oh, that's terrible, or that's great, or, oh, that's a bad pick. I like for these things to play out a bit. The one thing from doing this, and I know, is the people who do this for a living work a lot of hours doing this. Are they always right? Of course not. None of us are always right, but these people work at it pretty hard. There's reasons, and I try to think in terms of the reasons as opposed to just having a gut reaction that it's great or bad.
Hey, you watched all the way to the end. Thanks for that. Watch more right here.